Hello children, this is class 2 on Coleridge's Biographia Literaria, chapter 14. So as we have already discussed in the previous video, that is in class 1, both Coleridge and Wordsworth, they had differences of opinion regarding the language of poem. And Coleridge in Biographia Literaria, that is chapter 14, wants to make his views clear regarding poem and poetry. So Coleridge has elaborated in this chapter, that is 14 of Biographia Literaria, his views on poem and poetry. And he poses a number of questions regarding the nature and function of poetry and answers them. So this is how it is structured. So he also examines the ways in which poetry differs from other kinds of artistic activity like painting, dance, sculpture, and also he examines the role and significance of meter, rhyme and meter. I believe you are familiar. So he examines the role of meter and rhyme as an essential and significant part of a poem. And he begins this Biographia Literaria by emphasizing the difference between prose and poetry first. So first you must know, our readers, we must know the difference between prose and poetry before going into the poem and poetry. So if you see both prose and poetry, both use words. So the difference between a poem and a prose composition cannot then lie in the medium, because for each employs the same medium. So what is the medium? That is words. So both prose and poetry uses words. So there is no difference in the medium. It is therefore the difference actually consists in a different combination of words. So how differently you use words. So that is the basic difference between a prose and a poem. And a poem combines words differently because it is seeking to do something different. Okay, it is seeking to do something different. That is, if one wants to give, for example, the name of a poem to a composition of a novel, if you have composed any novel, and if you want to give the name poem to it by simply adding meter and rhyme, it is not possible. Coleridge says you cannot simply add meter and rhyme to any prose piece and you cannot call them as poem. So to Coleridge, meter and rhyme are not super added. So there is a reason for the poet to add this meter and rhyme to any poem. And he says, Coleridge says, meter and rhyme do not arise from the nature of the content, but have been imposed on it in order to make it more easily memorized. And now the question arises, if meter is mere super addition, so if meter and rhyme are mere super addition to such compositions, and so whether can be added into the poems. So the question is, let me make it clear, whether simply adding rhyme and meter to any composition, if we add, whether that can be made into a poem. So to this question, Coleridge replies that if meter is superadded to other parts of the composition, also must harmonize with it. That is, the recurrence of accent and sound, which is the essence of meter, actually it directs attention to each part of the composition separately. And in order to deserve the name of the poem, each part must be so arranged as to justify the attention of the readers. That is, it is distinguished from prose compositions whose immediate purpose is to give pleasure. So we all know poetry's immediate purpose is to give pleasure. It means the poem is an organic whole in which the various parts work in harmony to provide that pleasure which is peculiar to poetry. Similarly, in scientific and historical compositions, the immediate object is the conveyance of truth, and the imparting of pleasure is only secondary or incidental. In prose works, the communication of pleasure may be the immediate purpose, though truth, moral, or intellectual be their ultimate end. So he makes that prose is different from poetry. And coming to the consideration of poetry as distinguished from a poem, Coleridge points out that poetry may be found at its best and sublimest in works which employ no metrical language. Okay, so now we are going to analyze the difference between poem and poetry. So, Coleridge, poetry may be found at its best and sublimest in the works which employ no metrical language, that is the prose of Plato or of Jeremy Taylor, or the prophetic books in the Bible, or actually the illustrations of such poetry. These things will immediately which comes to our mind. So poetry for Coleridge is a wider category than a poem. That is, poetry is a kind of activity which can be engaged in by painters or philosophers or scientists, and is not confined to those who employ metrical language. So this is the difference. So poetry is a wider category, and it is not confined to those who employ metrical language or even to those who employ language of any kind. So poetry in this larger sense brings the whole soul of man into activity, with each faculty playing its proper part. Okay, so this takes place whenever the secondary imagination comes into operation. So we will learn about the secondary imagination, primary imagination in coming classes, but this poetry works takes place whenever the secondary imagination comes into operation. So poetry works with the help of secondary imagination. Just remember this. We'll study this primary and secondary imagination coming classes. And poem. So coming to this poem, a poem is always the work of a poet. Okay, it is a work of a poet, but poetry is not a work of a poet. It's a wider category, but a poem is always the work of a poet, a man employing the secondary and also the primary imagination. So to Coleridge, a poem must possess an organic unity. Okay, poem must possess an organic unity. It is wherein meter and rhyme, that is everything used in a poem as an artist in an artistic way, while they are not used in prose. So if meter is used superficially, it can be a poem, but a poem cannot please us if there is no organic unity. So Coleridge thinks that the main aim of poetry is only one, and that is to give pleasure. And if you see, on the other hand, Coleridge does not regard meter as essential for poetry. He clearly says that poetry of highest kind may also exist without meter, and that this is what that's why he refers Plato and Jeremy. So Coleridge believes that rhyme and meter are essential in order to memorize what is written and to develop a certain kind of attachment to it by getting the feeling of the words through a particular rhyme or rhythm. And he says that poem is merely one of the form of expression. So it is, from the poet's mind, it is one of the form of expression, and poetic creativity is basically an activity of imagination, and he identifies imagination with the soul of poetry. So a poem to Coleridge contains the same elements as a prose composition, because both, as we discussed, uses only words. And this is how Coleridge distinguishes poem from poetry. See, this distinction between this poetry and poem is actually not clear even in Biographia Literaria, and he has not clearly explained or defined, or he has not made it clear the differences between poem and poetry. And instead of defining poetry, he proceeds to describe a poet, and from the poet he proceeds to enumerate the characteristics of the imagination. So he has not given us a proper definition for poem. And this is so because poetry for Coleridge is an activity of poet's mind, and the poem is merely one of the form of expression, a verbal expression of that activity, and poetic activity is basically an activity of imagination. So to conclude, the definition that he has given for poem is, a poem is always the work of a poet. So this is how he defines poem. So a poem differs from a work of scientific prose in having as its immediate object pleasure and not truth. And it differs from other kinds of writing which have pleasure and not truth as the immediate object. So therefore, a legitimate poem is a composition in which the rhyme and the meter bear an organic relation to the total work. So this is how he has defined poem in Biographia Literaria chapter 14. So next class we will see fancy and imagination, and primary and secondary imagination. Meet you in next class. Thank you.